What looked like a deft triumph of American diplomacy has turned into an international incident with no end in sight. At the center of it is Chen Guangcheng, the blind Chinese dissident who escaped from house arrest in Beijing last week and sought sanctuary in the U.S. Embassy. This morning, he walked out of the embassy hand in hand with American diplomats. The Chinese had guaranteed Chen's safety and freedom. But now that he is back in Chinese hands, there are reasons for doubt. Holly Williams has late details from Beijing, but first, David Martin on how this strange day began.
Scott, what was supposed to have been 2 days of high-level talks between Secretary of State Clinton, Treasury Secretary Geithner, and Chinese leaders has turned into a diplomatic fiasco over the fate of one man.
At first, it was all smiles and hugs. Chen Guangcheng couldn't thank American diplomats enough. He even phoned Secretary Clinton to personally thank her. For their part, the Americans seemed delighted to have ended a standoff that began 6 days ago when Chen escaped from house arrest and took refuge in the U.S. Embassy. But then, as Chen was taken to a Chinese hospital to be reunited with his family, the wheels started to come off a deal which was supposed to have allowed him to remain in China free of persecution. Just as Chris Johnson, who until 2 weeks ago was the CIA's top China analyst, predicted it would.
In terms of trying to somehow negotiate with the Chinese a means to guarantee his safety within China, there's just too much chance that the Chinese regime would renege and then the administration would look terrible.
From his hospital room, Chen called Western reporters and fellow dissidents, saying he'd been coerced into leaving the safety of the American embassy. "Chen talked to me," one dissident tweeted. He did not want to leave the embassy, but he had no choice, because if he did not leave, his wife would be sent back to house arrest. Chen was also quoted as saying he now fears for his safety and that of his family and wants to come to the U.S. American officials insist that throughout his 6 days at the embassy, Chen insisted on remaining in China and that he left the embassy voluntarily after they negotiated the best deal possible with the Chinese government.
What has been described as the biggest test in U.S.-Chinese relations in 20 years is not over yet. Among other things, the Chinese are demanding the U.S. apologize for meddling in their internal affairs.
Thank you, David.